looking for this weekend?
Well, I think from a good news standpoint, and let's face it, they're 30.5-point underdogs. So, it's a massive challenge. But Vanderbilt is going to break in a new quarterback this weekend. I'm almost certain that it is going to be Ken Seals, who's about 3 hours down the road from you, Weatherford, Texas. I have gotten to see a good bit of Ken. In terms of the freshman quarterbacks that I've covered in 18 years, I've never seen a kid who looked more ready. And let me clarify by saying I didn't cover Jay Cutler's first year, but I think that Ken, in terms of maturity, the things he's asked to do, accuracy, all those sorts of things, has really shown a lot of promise. I think he's going to be an outstanding player, an outstanding leader for Vanderbilt. Having said that, the surrounding cast is going to be an issue, and I think you start on the offensive line, where they lost their left tackle. He transferred out after last year. And keep in mind, this was all coming off a bad offensive line. They had 2 starters opt out in fall camp, so that hurt. They lost 2 key backups. So what's going to be in front of him is going to be a group of inexperienced freshmen, true freshmen, sophomores, juniors for the most part. That is never a good thing anywhere. That's especially not a good thing hitting the road in the SEC. I think the playmakers around him, he's got a few here and there, but it's not up to everybody else's standard in the league. So I look at Ken Seals and say that's a point of excitement for Vanderbilt fans, I think rightfully so. But the question is, how much will the other guys around him allow him to flourish in the things that he can do? And I think that's going to be the issue.
Yeah, Ken Seals is an interesting case. Actually, before I was done, worked for Fort Star Telegram, which was the paper of record for where he grew up. He was at Azle, transferred over to Weatherford, has been a guy that college coaches have been talking about since he was in middle school, going to TCU's camps, going to SMU's camps and places around the Metroplex. So it'd be interesting way for him to start his college career coming back to his home state.
Yeah, I would imagine if you're that family thinking, hey, of all the games that we could have drawn this year, that's the closest one to the stadium. And, Vanderbilt's not allowing fans in October. So I'm happy for Ken and his family that he's going to be able to play in front of some friendly faces. And you sure hope for him. Look, it's going to be a tough task to tackle for Vanderbilt playing A&M, playing in the SEC team. But you sure hope that kid gets to the season healthy. Because, again, I think beyond this year, he could be a very good player for them.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that he'll get all the snaps? I mean, we don't know what we're going to see. I mean, you got someone like Mon, he's going to play the whole game. But anytime you've got a new quarterback, you're on the road, we don't know about COVID practice, how cohesive any offense is going to be, let alone one, like you said, missing offensive linemen, newcomers. Do you think that, hey, this is sold out, looking down the road, that Seals will get all the snaps, so even if it goes bad, they're looking on down the line?
Well, from what I've gathered, he is hands down their best quarterback. I think he's good with the ball, which I think you need to be in this offense. I think he avoids turnovers, which I think you need to do in this offense. I think he gets rid of it quickly. It's where it needs to be. And plus, anytime you're in a rebuilding year, you're looking to give people something to be excited about. And so I don't think anything gets fans more excited than a quarterback who's going to be theirs for this year and the 3 beyond. Now, having said that, you don't want to let the kid lose confidence. You don't want him to get hurt. They have a JUCO backup named Danny Clark behind him who's got a very strong arm, probably the strongest arm on the team, and has played college snaps before. So I think it could be a situation where if they struggle or he's in jeopardy of getting hurt, you could see a change. But I think those two are 1 and 2, and I think 3 and 4, from what I understand, are a good bit behind those guys.
So I know there was some. Go ahead, Cease.
No, you go ahead. You're good.
I know there was some storylines and whatnot about returning to the football field with COVID. How has Vanderbilt done in the fall camp in the last managing COVID and getting ready for this game this weekend?
I think they've done okay. They lost some players at different parts of the fall camp. And the thing that I've always said to people, it's not just how many guys you have hurt, it's where they get hurt. Because, COVID hits the quarterback room or the tight end room or the running back room, and all of a sudden you could be precariously thin at a certain position heading into a week. So I think they had some of that earlier in the season, earlier in fall camp, especially on the offensive line. I think they'll still have a few kids that may sit out because of that on Saturday. But look, everybody just about across the country had issues handling it. You look at Vanderbilt being in Nashville, it's the biggest, most population dense city in the conference. And so you add that level of complication. I think they did okay. Every team's going to be missing some guys here and there. Teams have had players opt out. I know Texas A&M had a star linebacker and receiver both opt out. So it could have been worse. Unfortunately for them, they had 2 starting offensive linemen who opted out. But again, that's in the rearview mirror a little bit. They've had time to adjust. So I think in terms of handling what they could handle, seems to me that they did okay.
Chris, I'm really looking forward to this matchup of Vandy's defense against A&M's offense, because A&M feels their offense will be better this year, but now they lost a couple tight ends to injuries. Osmond's gone, but they still have Mon. But this Vanderbilt defense, I think Ted Roof's got a great resume. You put him with Mason and all these players back, and you're talking about another Texan more at the center of that defense. How good do you think this Vanderbilt defense can be, and what are you looking for that matchup against Mon?
Well, you look at last year, and they weren't very good, right? They allowed 31.5 points a game. They got run over. I think they gave up 8 yards or more a rush like 4 times in conference play, which was just bad. But I also don't think they were coached very well. I was really surprised when they went out and got Ted Roof. I thought that was a better hire than maybe Derek Mason could make. You look everywhere he's been, he's won. He's done well on that side of the ball. They don't have a group of standouts per se. There's not a lot of decorated all SEC players on that team. They did have 3 guys that were preseason first or second, but it's not a defense with a lot of accomplishment. But you guys know in this league, you get guys who are third-year players, fourth and fifth-year seniors. That experience adds up after a while, especially when kids on the other side of the ball don't have what you've got. So you look at a defense, they've got 11 guys back. They've got all the backups mostly behind those guys coming back too. So you have a lot of experienced bodies. I think they'll be better coached. I think Ted Roof will bring some pressure, which they didn't do a lot last year and the year before and the year before that. I think that's going to help. I think they're going to need to manufacture turnovers and big plays. I think his approach is going to help that. Look, am I saying this is going to be a great defense? No. But if you look at the end of the year and you say, hey, they were way better than we thought, what you're going to say is, well, they changed coordinators and got a guy who was proven. And 2, they had a lot of guys who had come back. And you mentioned Dimitri Moore, who I think is from Cedar Hill. Dimitri is getting some first-round buzz in some places. Now, I've not seen that kind of production out of him, but he was a very good linebacker in high school. He's big. He's got a lot of physical attributes. I'm really interested to see how he does this year. So am I calling for them to be one of the best defenses in the league? No. I think there are enough things there of intrigue to where I think they're worth watching, and I think they could be better for all those reasons.
Is there a matchup between these 2 schools that you're the most interested in, whether it be an individual one-on-one or a position group? What are you most intrigued by this A&M Vanderbilt matchup?
Well, look, the line on it's 30.5 points. So I'm not really looking for this to be one of these games where you get down to the 4th quarter and somebody needs to kick a field goal to win. That just doesn't seem realistic to me. I go back to Ken Seals. I'm looking to see how does he respond. I don't think there's been a lot of hitting in practice. I think that's the deal most places for obvious reasons. So I want to say, how does he respond when he gets hit, especially from the blind side? How does he respond when teammates drop a ball or 2, which is going to happen? What I want to really know is what's the outlook for him on this offense? Is he a guy who can survive the pounding that he's going to take in the league this year, not lose confidence and come out a better player? I've seen one kid at Vanderbilt that really did that in his first game. There's a guy named Jay Cutler. I remember watching him take snaps about 20 years ago against Georgia Tech, and that team was completely uncompetitive. Cutler didn't have a good day, but you watched him and you watched his body language and you said, that's a kid that's got what it takes between the ears. And so to me, in a game that I don't think most of us think is going to be competitive, I'm looking to see what they get from him.
Are you surprised that they brought Mason back? And if so, what does he have to do to show improvement this year?
No, I was not. I think it was going to cost them around $15 million last year to get rid of him, which is insane, but that's the world that coaches live in these days. I think that there's not been a lot of talk about him being on the hot seat, and I tend to think he's not, because I think they're still going to owe him $7 million. I think you've already seen the excuses fly with COVID. I think you're going to say, well, he just got 2 new coordinators. If they show improvement, I think they'll say, let's bring him back for another year, because they've always looked for a reason to give Derek a chance at another year. Having said that, an interesting thing happened a couple of weeks ago. They brought in Louisiana Tech's athletic director to take a deputy position there. And I'm hearing that he may have more power than a normal associate or deputy AD. I think it's going to be very interesting at a time that they need to raise money for funds and football projects, at a time where excitement, I think, is at an all-time low around that program. It's going to be very hard if they go, say, 0-10 or 1-9, to get people to buy into what they're going to need to try to do to improve their football facilities and other things. So I think that's the interesting dynamic, is how they sell that to boosters and what impact does the new AD have. Otherwise, I think he's coming back, but those things happening and giving me just enough reason to think, well, maybe there's a shot they make a change.
Cease, you got anything else?
When they went to this 10-game schedule, Chris, how does that affect Vanderbilt, picked to go last, and they're not going to win 2 or 3 games out of non-conference that they normally would get, and maybe in Auburn, even if they go 6-6, they're going to get those 4 wins outside conference. What's your first thought when you thinking, man, Vanderbilt's got to play 10 conference games?
Well, one of the first things I did is I went and looked at the SP rankings, and I took the power rankings and I factored in home field and advantage and disadvantage, although I don't know how much that plays in anymore. But they were at best a 13-point underdog in every game, and it averaged out to, I think, 23 or 24. So that told you, Vegas or the computer guys don't expect him to win much at all. They might pull an upset like they did against Missouri, but I don't know. I mean, they had Mercer on the schedule. That was their best opportunity for a win. That got washed away. As bad as this program has been, I don't think it's ever had a winless season. Again, for a school that has really not cared about football, and I don't think is looking to make a change, would having a 0 in that left-hand column make a difference? I don't know. But again, it gets awfully hard to build positivity and momentum heading into future years if that's how you win the season. So I think, I think if they'd kept the old schedule, they probably win a couple games in there somewhere and give themselves just enough cover to say, hey, we did win a few times. As soon as they went to 10 games in the league and they didn't pick up Arkansas, that to me was immediate trouble, and it's going to be just an uphill climb for them all year.
Let's close it out with this. Cease, we'll start with you and say, what is the keys for A&M to win the game, and what you're most looking for from A&M?
If A&M protects the ball, which I think Chris alluded to with that defense, they might attack a little bit more. To me, Vanderbilt's only chance would be to have turnovers and, to make it a competitive game. If A&M takes care of the ball with their improved defense, I think that will be okay. And do want to see what A&M does against the Ted Roof defense, because as Chris said, they're going to bring pressure. They're going to do different things. And I think it's going to be a good test for us to see, Aggie fans, for them to see where is A&M's offense going into Alabama and Florida.
I think the biggest thing for me is the offensive line, to see what A&M can do there. I think we've said multiple times, the key to what this A&M's going to be able to do this season, especially on offense, is going to be the offensive line, because that gives Kellen Mond time, that opens up holes for the running backs. That's going to be the key for A&M season. So I'm going to have the biggest eyes on the offensive line. Also, what position groups, what players might be out for COVID. That's going to be the main thing to watch each week. And then, Chris, we'll wrap it up with you. I know you kind of already a little bit gave a prediction. We talked about the spread a little bit. Let's go with, does Vandy cover the spread, and what do they need to do to be able to make that happen?
It's hard to say. It's a season opener, and we have seen some crazy stuff happen. You saw how Navy just got boat raced in, I think, what was like a pick'em game against BYU. And so there's an element of randomness that makes me wonder. And again, I think the defense will be better, but man, I'm kind of needing to see something to believe. As much as I think the defense will be better, it still gave up, I think, 35 points a game to FBS teams a year ago. I don't see them stringing more than one, maybe two touchdowns together. The field goal game is uncertain. Vanderbilt's going to have to get short fields, not just turnovers, but short fields, I think, on top of it, and really excel in special teams, where I've got some questions too. After having seen this team lose 9 games by 17 or more last year, I'm going to vote against right now and take A&M in the points. But there's just enough intrigue in what they could do defensively with Wolf to make me say don't bet the house on it.
Cease, any closing thoughts?
I wouldn't bet $1 on any of these first games, as Chris mentioned. We just don't know what's going to happen because you don't know who's coming out with COVID. I mean, you can say what you want to. They never tell you what's going to happen anyway. And we have no idea who's going to be missing. And then the kicking games, even A&M's bringing in a new punter. You don't know what these guys are going to do in live competition. A&M goes out and makes 2 huge mistakes early, and they could be trailing 14-0. They might come back and win 40-14, but I don't know what we're going to see out there.
Yeah. For sure. Well, Chris, thanks so much for giving us a little bit of your time. Let's remind everybody the best ways to find you online and find your work.
Yeah, I am. Our Twitter account for the staff is VandySports.com. Mine's at Chris Lee 1970, I think. I should know my own Twitter handle by heart, but I don't. But you can find me. I've got about 4,000 followers, and you can go to VandySports.com and find me there for sure. We're on the Rivals Network, where we've been for almost 18 years. I think your audience knows that. So I'm easy to find, even if I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to tell you at the moment.
Wonderful. Well, Chris, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll be excited to catch up with you down the line.
Thank you so much.